My best friend's ex-mother-in-law demands my friend become a submissive wife to her stalker son. This is part 2 of the stalking ex story, posted almost a month after the last update. If you haven't watched the first part yet, click the link in the description. Now on to the story. This is an ongoing mess with my female 29 best friend's female 30, ex-male 29, and now her ex-mother-in-law. Now, my bestie never married her ex, but for simplicity's sake, I'll refer to her ex's parents as ex-mother-in-law and ex-father-in-law. Bestie and I lived together with my parents in a newly bought house. She's pretty much a daughter to my parents, and we are platonic life partners by this point. Her ex ghosted her for 3 years and has been hounding her ever since he found out we bought a house, trying to get her to take him back and live in our house. We've tried reaching to the police, but since nothing serious has happened, we've reached a wall and can only wait. Her ex-in-laws no longer live in the US, but they did come for Thanksgiving. Though my bestie is no longer dating their son, she offered to pick them up at the airport and take them to their hotel. Reason I was told was they would do that for her when she was in college. I didn't like it since her ex is a problem, but she wanted to use the chance to ask her ex's parents to intervene and maybe get him off her back. I still didn't like it, but I figured they probably were okay, based on how she described them. And I was completely wrong. My bestie arrived in tears and with a scratched cheek. Immediately I asked her what happened and now I'm seeing red. The next part comes from how my bestie described things to me. Bestie told me picking them up went well, and they had talked about the old days. They asked my bestie if they could stop in a nearby restaurant they always liked, and bestie, being her usual self, decided to treat them to lunch. All hell broke loose at a restaurant though. Apparently, her ex-mother-in-law demanded to know why bestie did not take her abusive stalker ex back. According to ex-mother-in-law, my bestie is responsible for her baby boy since she was his girlfriend, and they were married in the eyes of God. To start, they'd never legally marry, and bestie is an atheist. So yeah, bestie tried to defuse the situation, explaining she's moved on with her life after 3 years not knowing where he was. She did try to ask her ex-mother-in-law to convince her son to leave her alone, and that bestie just doesn't want him in her life anymore. Ex-father-in-law seemed to agree with her, and apologized for all the heartache and pain she went through. Ex-mother-in-law, however, took over the conversation and began screaming that thanks to my bestie, her son had no life. That apparently, my bestie was responsible for her firstborn not having a wife for children. And the least she could do is take responsibility and become the submissive wife he deserved. Ex-father-in-law tried to pull his wife away, more than likely because they were causing a very public scene. Bestie simply said she would not ever consider marriage to her ex. She then said it might be best to take the food to go and for them to go to their hotel. She paid all the food, despite ex-father-in-law offering to cover his and his wife's meal, and drove them to the hotel. On the way to the hotel is where things went from 1 to 100. Ex-mother-in-law had spent the whole drive escalating demands. From taking him back to marrying him, to have a child and give her son the house as the man in the relationship. Ex-father-in-law apparently kept telling her to stop, but there was no way she could be quiet. Finally, my bestie had enough, stopped the car and told ex-mother-in-law she will never take a failure of a man like her baby boy as a husband, let alone give birth to his spawn. That she was glad no other woman had stayed long-term with him, since he really won't be a good addition to the gene pool. I gotta admit, I'm proud of her for that last one. Ex-mother-in-law went crazy and jumped on my friend. Her husband luckily grabbed her, but she still manages to get my friend on the cheek. She began screaming BFF was the reason her family had split, called her a whore in our native language, and said she wished our house burnt with all of us inside. Ex-father-in-law just told my friend to drop their bags on the sidewalk and drive away while he held back his demon of a wife. And bestie did exactly that. Next thing she did was drive back to us. She was not so much hurt by the insults or even the attack, but more the notion that a woman she once saw as a second mother would treat her like this. I told her to just relax a bit, so she's watching some movies with the dogs while I write this and do some work. Tomorrow we're both calling out and just having a girls' day with my mom. I did get in touch with the ex's sister and let her know what happened. She already knew from her dad and asked if bestie was pressing charges. She should, but she's not. I tried to convince her, but it's a sore topic for her, so for her emotional well-being I'm not going to push it. The sister said she appreciates we're not pressing charges and that she'll make sure her family doesn't bother us in any way. Apparently she already had her brother moved outside the city. Not sure how or where, but I'm glad he's gone. So hopefully we're done. We're going to avoid going out too often until we know the ex-monster-in-law is gone from the city. It's not a small city by any means, but I wouldn't put it past these crazies to try to stalk my bestie. Now for the top comments before reading the last update. Pressing charges will expedite the restraining order. Your bestie seriously needs to rethink her decision. The ex-mother-in-law is deranged and dangerous. Another good reason to press charges is to establish documentation of the ex-mother-in-law's violent behavior. If, hopefully not, a fire does happen, documentation will point the authorities in the right direction as to who possibly started it. I absolutely agree, but I also know right now is not the right time to push it. I'm hoping my mom can talk to her about it. At the very least, pictures need to be taken of the scratches. Pictures sent to an email with a detailed account of the attack, just in case it's needed later. Hopefully ex-mother-in-law is going back to her country. They can find their own way to the airport. Meanwhile, block her on the phone and social. That family, except for the sister, is beyond arranged. Your bestie needs to stay away from that toxic, dangerous family. Bestie needs a reality check because she is still in contact with them. I was thinking the same. At some point, bestie needs to take accountability for the role she's playing in allowing these people access to her. You're making it worse for yourself, and then you're not even following through to protect yourself. Not only that, but you put OP in danger adjacent. I know, my mom plans to talk to her about it and maybe convince her to do some therapy. Obviously, my mom can't be the therapist, but she knows some people that might be a good fit. Poor father-in-law too. He can't just drop her bag somewhere, but he wishes he could. He has probably been putting up with it for years. That's how these people get so out of control. Everybody knuckles under and doesn't call them out on their behavior. The bestie's doing it too. Just like her son, this mother is crazy. I found it ironic how mother-in-law was yelling about how women should be submissive to their husbands, but then ignored her own husband when he told her multiple times to stop yelling. Now for the update. After Thanksgiving dinner, my mom sat my bestie to have a serious talk. She told her she didn't want to diagnose her, but she was showing clear signs that she needed help, and therapy could be an option. They had a discussion about it, and my friend agreed to seek professional help. Since she lives with my mom, she's not an option, but mom is going to help her find someone. We just came from filing a police report. My friend won't press charges, but we made a paper trail to ensure that it's at least on the record. She apologized for not doing it immediately, and for going to meet her ex-in-laws. I told her I understand she's going through a lot of things. We'll see how things go, but she's like a sister to me and I refuse to let her go through it alone. As for people saying I have feelings for her, please stop. Like seriously stop. She's my family and I don't see her in any romantic or sexual way. It's annoying that people assume just because we have a strong friendship, it means I have romantic feelings. Last story. My 39 female husband, 38 male, fathered a child before we were together and I just found out 14 years later. Original post. After 12 years of marriage and 2 children together, I received a Facebook message yesterday from a woman who told me that she has a 15-year-old daughter that my husband has continually denied since her birth. The child was produced from a one-night stand, and afterwards my spouse did everything he could not to see his child. The mother eventually had his parental rights terminated, and she moved away for many years. Fast forward to now, my husband has buried the secret as deeply as possible. On the other hand, his daughter is now having some issues and her mother contacted my mother-in-law in January, imploring him to reach out to his daughter, threatening to tell me if he did not. Apparently, they had a 30-minute FaceTime which he lied about last night until confronted with evidence her mother provided to me. And then he admitted that it was true, and then he blocked the account so she could not contact him again. Her mother claimed she sent the message out of love and concern for her daughter, and I understand that she wants her to have a connection with her biological father. But she blew my entire life up in the process. My husband has lied and lied and lied. He eventually admitted to everything but only went back into a corner. I asked him to leave the house last night so I could clear my head. But the truth is that I can't even look at him right now. I don't think I've ever felt so dumbfounded, hurt, confused, and betrayed all at the same time. My instinct is to call a lawyer to see where I stand, legally and financially, as I'm not sure I can continue this marriage, knowing that I might never feel like I can trust him again. My family thinks I'm being rash because I'm hurting so much, and this is 12-hour-old information. Also, knowing how he abandoned his first child makes me feel disgusted. Last night, he spoke about her as a mistake and a dark secret. He was never going to tell us about her existence because he was embarrassed. Regardless of what happened between he and I, there is a teenager out there who shares 25% of her genetic material with my beautiful children. I don't want that child, who did not ask to be born into such a messy situation, to be separated from her family forever. Even if he does not want to see her, I'd like my kids to eventually know their half-sister, because she deserves to be loved and supported, even if her father cannot. So now I'm left with options and questions, and I don't know how to proceed. Do I start the process to end my marriage, or do I try to keep my family together? When do we tell our small children about her half-sister? Anyone who has experienced this, all advice is welcome. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You are extending so much grace towards that child and I applaud you. Bottom line is, you will never trust him again. To keep such a secret for as long as he did is reprehensible. We had a great partnership before this. I'm devastated. But I don't want to continue a marriage that was based on lies. I completely understand. This is beyond a lie. This is a child's life. Your life is now forever changed. Why did he say he kept this from you? He said he was embarrassed. Since his parental rights had been terminated so many years ago, it felt like she didn't exist. He kept insisting that she was not his child, just a mistake that he made as a dumb kid. There's more backstory that will make him look even worse, but it's irrelevant at this point, just there to further add insult to his character. It seems like he just makes it worse and worse. Felt like she didn't exist? A mistake? She's a human being and shares 50% of his DNA. I can appreciate that he was stupid at 23, but my gosh. Every statement like these would make me even more disappointed in him as a human being. I feel all of this. I've been with my husband 10 years. If I found out something similar and he acted the way your husband did, I don't think I could ever trust him again. Told on to such a big secret, to sneak around about it, then to lie when confronted? That's a lot. To top it all off, your mother-in-law knew. I know other Redditors are saying it's about how he has treated you and your children over the last 14 years, but to me it would all feel like a lie. Everyone in this situation needs counseling. I would definitely work on introducing children who share 50% of their DNA. If this child is struggling, knowing her siblings might help. It might also hurt. My mom was abandoned and her father raised other kids. She asked him once why, and he said he wasn't ready to be a father. That only made her pain worse, because why was he ready with them and never came back for her? Everyone involved needs serious counseling, and handle your feelings with your husband in the most honest way you can. Don't try to minimize things because of the idea of what your marriage is supposed to be or what others think you should do. I'm so sorry. He told me that he wasn't ready to be a father at 23 multiple times last night. Is that the best thing he did for her was to terminate his rights? Update. I had a request to post an update, and interestingly enough, I saw a message today that he actually posted in the divorce subreddit after this all happened, but he deleted it, and it was full of half-truths. This is what's been going on, and I will answer some of your questions. The mother, Carrie, of this child, Danny, has been in contact with us both since this happened. She says that the reason they told me after all these years was because Danny wanted to be involved in the lives of her two half-sisters, my bio children. She has not asked for back child support or anything like that. But now Danny has decided that she wants nothing to do with my spouse, and Carrie doesn't seem to be facilitating the relationship with my family the way she originally stated. It seems like something is amiss, but I've been lied so many times that honestly, I just can't tell anymore. The termination of his parental rights. According to the both of them, she tried to push him into fatherhood, and when she finally realized that he had zero interest in being a dad, she had him sign away his rights, and then proceeded to disappear until Danny was 8. My spouse never paid child support and was never asked to pay child support. Both of them have told me that. Then Carrie got married and Jeff adopted Danny. I can't see my spouse's original post, but judging by the comments, it made it seem like he signed his rights away so Jeff could adopt her. But that's a lie. Danny was 8 when she was adopted, not an infant. Carrie tried to contact my spouse to sign those adoption papers in 2016, but he blocked her. So she contacted my mother-in-law, had him sign the papers, and the connection ceased again. Then they disappeared again until June of 2020, when Carrie reached out to my mother-in-law because Danny wanted to connect with her paternal biological family. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law proceeded to have a 2.5-year relationship with Danny through phone/video calls, sending presents/money, all the while hiding it from my spouse and lying to Carrie, telling her and Danny that my spouse knew but wanted nothing to do with them. I know this to be true, as I heard my mother-in-law admit it over the phone to my spouse while I was silent on a 3-way call. My spouse had zero idea that anyone had contact with Carrie or Danny until a week after I found out about this situation. In January of 2023, Carrie delivered my in-laws an ultimatum. Either produce Danny's bio dad, or they would contact me and let me know what's been happening over the past 15 years. My spouse then agreed to a video call with Danny, where he promised that he would tell me he'd make an effort to make her a part of our lives. Within hours, he had Carrie blocked, and his mother and sister were so scared of their lie being discovered that they stopped talking to Danny altogether, without an explanation. Fast forward to September 2023, my mother-in-law texts Danny to have a good school year, and that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. A few weeks later, I received a message that would change our seemingly happy life forever. Presently, he has cut off his family completely. Carrie has also cut off all communication with his mother and sister. They're toxic, and it is the right decision for now. He comes from a long line of liars, and he is no different. He and I are both in therapy. Marriage counseling starting next week. I'm having good days and bad, as expected. My oldest child will be starting private therapy as well. We haven't told her about Danny, but I don't feel right about keeping the secret. And I know both of my kids have been suffering from the fighting and disruption to their normally quiet lives. I've been trying to put my pieces back together, but I'm still very shattered. I'm journaling out my feelings, but anger is present a lot. I don't know if I can ever trust him again. I don't know if I can ever trust anybody again. But I'm working on it with a lot of help from my parents, friends, and therapists. How do I build trust again with the father of my children, even if it's just as co-parents? How do you build trust? You don't. You have some self-worth and get you and your kids out of that up situation. This comment made me feel terrible. I actually have a lot of self-worth. I know that I'm a good person, and both myself and my family deserve better than this. Trust is a really important thing for me and anyone who has a heart, even if I just need to build enough to feel comfortable leaving the kids with him alone in his new place.